This program is intended for informational purposes only and does not contain medical advice. As always, please contact your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding a medical condition.
Welcome to Hot and Bothered. I'm your host, Melyssa Ford. This is the space where we get real about sexual health, wellness, relationships, and all the life-affirming conversations that remind us what it means to live fully and authentically. Nothing's off limits. Everything is on the table. So let's dive in. Today on Hot and Bothered, we're sitting down with a woman whose story stretches far beyond the spotlight of an NBA marriage. A woman who transformed her personal journey into a movement for girls everywhere. Tracey Wilson Mourning is more than the former wife of Hall of Famer Alonzo Mourning. She is a visionary, an advocate, a healer, and the founder of Honey Shine, a mentorship and empowerment program that has been pouring into young girls for over 20 years. 2 decades of guidance, sisterhood, self-worth, and shining a light where the world sometimes forgets to look. Today, we're going to talk about love, legacy, reinvention, and about finding your voice after seasons where you had to silence it. This is a conversation about grace, grit, and glowing from within. And Tracey Wilson Mourning lives it every day.
This really good friend of mine, Bill Cosby, was a godfather to her. So we went to see his show. He was always talking about education, and he was like, well, where are you going to school? It was going into our senior year. I was like, I'm going to Pepperdine University. When he met my mom, he realized I was not going to Pepperdine University. And then after talking with my mom, he just really loved her and her truth-telling and her story, her life story. He offered me a scholarship to Howard University. Once our relationship ended or was ending, one of the first people that I was talking to was the First Lady, Michelle Obama. I remember sharing and talking with her, and I was really heartbroken. And she looks at me and she says, congratulations.
What are the ways in which you tried to hold on to your own identity, being regarded as the wife of such a humongous, personality and star player? First of all, Tracey, thank you for joining me. This is like your second podcast that you've done. Usually it's talking about the business, but we're going to get a little bit into yours.
Okay.
Because we have not seen each other I think we first met 20 years ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Sorry to age you, but I'm aging myself in the process. But it was Denver NBA All-Star. So I believe that this was 2006.
Wow, your memory's great.
I remember it because I remember my boyfriend at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And downstairs.
Yeah. And I remember I was there working for BET, and I was hosting or commentating on the women of the NBA. It was a luncheon for the wives of the NBA, and you were one of the women that I interviewed, and I just found you to be so pleasant, stunningly beautiful. And I will not use the word still. Stunningly beautiful. And just so sweet and so nice and so kind. And I didn't expect that.
Really?
No, not at all.
We are very sweet, kind, and all of that. That's just so interesting. Just the stereotypes, right?
Mhm.
That we have for each other in different areas. And it's not just, the wives of, it's just, I think us as women in general, we do that because of our experiences, a lot of it too.
Yeah. So I kind of want to start at the beginning. And that's just a very interesting story that you started out talking about, that the Cosbys paid for you to, go to college, university. There's a distinction in Canada. If you go to college, it's like, oh, that's nice. But if you're a university, oh, it's really much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they paid for you to go to Howard University. That's
not everybody's story.
Not everybody's story. You know, I'm such a believer in the power of words. And in high school, I grew up in Vegas.
Mhm.
So born in Cincinnati, raised in Vegas, and this really good friend of mine, we're still very close. Bill Cosby was a godfather to her,
Mhm.
and her father was in the industry, and so we went to see his show one time, and he was always talking about education, and he was like, well, where are you going to school? It was going into our senior year. I was like, I'm going to Pepperdine University.
Mhm.
Mind you, I knew nothing about Pepperdine. I just saw a picture that there was a beach in the backyard, and I said, that's where I'm going.
Pepperdine in Malibu. It's stunning.
Stunning.
You could do worse.
Yes.
You could pick a worse school.
Right.
Mhm.
So that was my reasoning. And so I really spoke like, I'm going to Pepperdine.
Mhm.
He was like very impressed with that. Like, really? And then when he met my mom, who cleaned houses in Vegas, you know, all my life, and he realized I was not going to Pepperdine University. And then when, after talking with my mom, like he just really loved her and her truth telling and her story, her life story, he offered me a scholarship to Howard University. Wow. And that's how I ended up at Howard. My mom said, well, that's where you're going. And, you know, he even tried to get me an athletic scholarship at Howard and took me out, met me on the track in Vegas with the UNLV track team, like to see what I could do out there. And then as I'm running around the track, my leg's flipping out. He's like, well, what's wrong with their leg? Like, this isn't going to work. So I received an academic scholarship, and that's how I
What was life like at Howard? Because you were born in Cincinnati, but you were raised on the West Coast in Vegas, no less. So what was life like in Chocolate City?
the best.
I can imagine. I'm
The
so
best.
jealous.
It was the best. Although I did, freshman year, I called home every day begging to come home. Like, Mom, please, I will get a job. I just missed her a lot. And she wouldn't let me. And DC was the best, greatest decision of my life. There's nothing like the Mecca. I know the whole HBCU experience is pretty special. That Howard University experience, second to none.
Yeah.
Life changing. And, you know, when you say Chocolate City, DC was Chocolate City at the time.
DC and Howard. I've spent a lot of time at Howard University. I've conducted and panels, participated the whole nine. I've gone to Howard Homecoming. I've gone to the, you know, as far as DC goes, I just was at the Congressional Black Caucus. I mean, DC is lit. It's such a great time.
Great city.
Mhm.
It really is. It's changed a lot. You know, it's not as chocolate as it was, but it really is a special place.
Yeah.
Very special. And for Howard to be right in the heart of it, it's a beautiful experience.
So you said that growing up, your mom cleaned houses. So I gather that you did not grow up in the lap of luxury.
I didn't grow up in the lap of luxury, but I never wanted for anything. Like, I remember saying to my mom, like, what do you mean we are not rich? Like, I had everything I wanted, you know, that was just the way my mom was. And it wasn't like I guess I was spoiled, but I wasn't rotten. You know, there was an honor, respect there because I know how hard she worked. She cleaned 3-4 houses a day, you know, had keys to everyone's house. They trusted her because she never took anything that didn't belong to her. And she just worked hard all of my life. And growing up, I literally never wanted for anything.
Where was your dad, if I might
My
ask?
father. Well, I didn't grow up with my father. So my mom, my dad passed away when I was 15, around 15. But my mother and father, that was her second marriage. So she was married. My mom's a white woman, German Jew, mouth like a sailor, call you everything but a child of God.
My mom was Russian and Norwegian.
Yeah, I mean, so out of pocket with her mouth. And she was married before my father, had 3 children, my 2 sisters and a brother. She was married to a white man. It was an abusive relationship. She left him and moved from Kentucky to Cincinnati with her children and met and married my father. And during this time, it was against the law for a white woman to marry a black man. So her ex-husband and her family take her to court to get custody of her children. And the judge says 20 years from now, it's not going to matter. Right now it's a civil rights matter, granted custody to the father. He stands up and says, well, I don't want them. I just didn't want her to have them. And so her parents stand up and say, well, we will take them and if you get rid of the one you're carrying, my sister Lisa, you can have them back and we will buy you a house. So this is a woman who her children were literally taken from her.
And you're just bargaining chips.
Yeah. And just because she, in the court papers, I have the actual court papers, she was considered something less than an ideal mother because she married a Negro. Like, it's like the things that my mom went through, and for her to thrive in life, you know, she given up was never an option for her. She had to fight to get visitation for her children. And you asked about my father. I was born 5 years after my sister, and I didn't grow up with my father at all. My mom and my dad were together, but I really feel that with my father, it was a lot of pressure on him because people would say, look what she gave up for you. Mm-hmm. Because it was in Jet magazine, white woman loses kids because she marries a Negro. It was in the paper, it was everywhere. And I just feel that maybe the pressure of that weighed heavy on him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I didn't grow up with him. But my mom was enough to be grandparents, father, everything for me.
So I asked about the state of your parents' union just because as girls, we are conditioned to center men and marriage in our lives. And usually everything that we do outside of that is just accessory. Right. You know, marriage being the primary goal, but when you marry a man of status and fame and financial means, that kind of ups the ante. And I guess, you know, in this social sphere, marrying an NBA player would probably be considered, you know, I don't know, top of the food chain in terms of acquisition of a husband. So I wanted to ask, you know, how did you and, you know, your former husband, Alonzo, meet? And, you know, what were the early days before the fame and the pressure set in? What was that like?
So we actually met in high school in Vegas. He was in Vegas for a basketball tournament, and a mutual friend introduced us, and we were pen pals our senior year of high school. I still have some of those letters. And when we met in Vegas, I was like, oh, I'm going to Pepperdine. He was like, he wasn't sure where he was going. And then he ended up going to Georgetown. And when that summer he called and asked, you know, I told him, oh, I'm going to Howard. I had no idea how close they were. And so when I got to Howard, I checked in my dorm and they were like, oh, you're Tracey. Could you call this person back? Because he called every dorm and left messages, you know, and we started dating then. So we dated all through college and for a long time, over 30 years. So it was a long time. But the early years, it was, you know, puppy love, high school, college, you know, it was fun. That was the one person that that was a constant, you know, in that school life time. But yeah, so it was high school that we met and dated through college.
So when he entered the league, what expectations did you have, if any, for what your life was going to look like?
You know, I don't know that I had expectations that of what I wanted to do career-wise. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. I went to school for communications, minored in business, and I was doing that. I worked at the television station in Charlotte when he was drafted. That's where we moved. And, you know, I still focused on my career and what I wanted to do. But then when I had children, like the focus went completely to that. Went completely to being a mom and a wife and, you know, holding down the fort while he was out living history. Yeah.
So would you say that that was the thing that changed the fastest, is that your dreams became deferred once the NBA lifestyle became the norm?
Yeah, I would say so, but it wasn't that I still, even throughout, like I would work on different projects, worked for NBA TV, and I would still do my work even as a mom. But it really is, you have one parent that's gone all the time. So you want some type of normalcy with your children. And it's you know, from school to home, that is a full-time position. And I was I don't regret it at all, making that decision to put my children as my top priority. So that was, I don't know, it wasn't how I had planned my life. I think about Aisha. My son brought that up to me the other day. I feel like she gets a hard way to go. They give her such a hard way.
They give her
They want
so
her
much.
to be so wrong for speaking her truth. And, I too can say that even in college and high school, marriage wasn't what I was thinking about. Having my family, I had dreams and all of that I wanted to pursue as well. But when you are in that lifestyle, there is someone has to hold it down,
Yeah.
and that shifts things for you.
I think that the collective way of thinking is that she should just be grateful and happy that she got chosen by such a
That part.
spectacular man. And it's like, you do know that I'm a whole human being with my own sense of identity outside of these labels
Right.
of, being wife and mother. And that was what I was going to ask you, because NBA players, they become larger than life. They're heroes to millions of people. And, you can be a top attorney. You can be a Michelin rated chef. You can be all of these things. But if you're married to one of them, oftentimes I'm sure you just get relegated to being the wife of.
Yeah.
I have girlfriends who are currently, struggling with the identifiers as wife and mother, because they just can think back to when, before having been married and before having had children, there were so many other things about them. There were so many other ways in which they could identify themselves and people identified them. But once you become wife and mother, those are the overarching, themes of your life.
Yeah. And then it's not just people that make that assumption. We start to do it to ourselves.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, what are the ways in which you tried to hold on to your own identity, being regarded as the wife of such a humongous, personality and star player?
Right. Well, I can if we're being honest, and I like to live my life that way. I played small for a long time. There was a time where it's like, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I really played small. And
What does playing small look like?
playing small looks like where your needs aren't a priority, your desires aren't a priority. You're on their schedule. It's it's all about them. And, when you talk about the community, the fans that love these players, it's all about them to them as well, So for me, it became all about, well, what's your schedule? Well, how did we play in the game today? How did we play? Because that'll determine how the energy later on, So it was like the very consuming, and it's not just the players. There was one particular moment where a coach, his wife, and a very well-known coach and his wife, where I just saw how she was so consumed, where I remember we lost a game, a big playoff game, and she would always wear certain things in a certain brand and to the games, and she switched it up and put on a little leather, and they lost. She left so fast. She's like, I gotta go. Like, because it was like bad luck, or, it was like, he's not going to appreciate that she switched it up. Like, we do that to ourselves, like the mind games, like, maybe I contributed to them not winning because, or
That sounds like self-inflicted psychological warfare.
Yeah, you do it. Yes, you do it. But I don't believe that it's just with athletes. I think women, we do that anyway. We especially when our husbands are successful or powerful, we all tend to shrink ourselves to, and maybe not all, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of times we do shrink ourselves, to make them okay. So we think, not that they're necessarily asking for that, but we do that.
With all the conscientiousness that you paid to the relationship and, just being cognizant of everything, his stress level, his maybe even ego, like whatever you had to navigate, what did protecting the relationship look like from all that noise, from the media, from the groupies, from it all?
For me, I didn't like the newspapers. I didn't have that. I'm very much into the news, but the sports sections, I just remove it because you can't tell me what's happening in my home, based on that. So I would try to, keep that as far away as possible. And the whole navigating what, for me, it's like a natural thing to this whole lifestyle and the people that come with it. I lived in a bubble for a very long time where, that has nothing to do with me, like even with groupies or things like that. It was never at the forefront of my thinking, because my nature was if I'm a great wife, if I'm, looking the part, feeling the part, doing my part in the community, taking care of our kids, doing that, we're good, and that's not necessarily the case. And so with the outside influences, you can try to keep it at bay as much as possible, and not let it into your sanctuary. But that takes everybody to do that. It takes both.
People have this idea that it is an extraordinarily glamorous life. Before social media, all we had was, TV and People magazines and, tabloid magazines and that stuff. But what it looks like is private jets, fancy homes, cars, money.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
It's all of that. And, I think a lot of people would love that, right? So that is a great part of that. But there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with that. The athletes really are sacrificing a lot, including their families, with what, especially if you're really successful in any league, you eat, breathe, sleep the work. And then everyone else fits in around that. So it is a big sacrifice, but those glamorous things, those are nice. I'm an Aries, my birthstone's diamond. So, and I grew up in Vegas, so flashy and all of that. That's my nature. When I tell you that my mom, it wasn't because of my former husband that I appreciated the finer things in life. I appreciated the finer things in life from the very beginning because of what my mom did and provided for our family. Yeah.
What do people misunderstand most about being married to a pro athlete?
I guess what you said, that it's all glamorous and there's, nothing else wrong with it. But, it truly is a sacrifice. My former husband, he sacrificed his body to play the sport at a high level. And you can't be that great without those type of sacrifices. So, his health is, he had a kidney transplant and, it was it's all that. It's the injuries, I've taken care of a lot. He was a patient for a long time with caring for injuries and
That's not the glamorous
that's
part.
not glamorous. There's
Not at
nothing
all.
cute about that.
Mm-mm.
But when you're committed and this is, what you believe you're here for and you loved, you do it. So it's not all glamorous. We don't dress up all the time. It was a chore to go to the games, and have to dress up or look the part or this and that. After a while, it was like, I will show up the way I show up. And it is what it is. But, it was a blessed lifestyle. It really was. There were a lot of blessings and a lot of great things that came out of it, including children.
You mentioned playing small, and I'm just wondering if in playing small there was still space to express to him when you felt like there's a there's a there's an imbalance here in terms of whose needs, wants, desires are being focused on, and it's leaning heavily towards you, sir.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had that space?
I might have. I didn't have that space. And I can't say it's because of him that I didn't have that space.
You didn't give it to yourself.
I didn't give it to myself. I didn't take that space. I didn't make up that space. I didn't carve that out for myself. And I don't know that he would have either, but I just know that I didn't do it for myself. And it was really interesting because once our relationship ended or was ending, I was very heartbroken, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and one of the first people that I was talking to right afterwards was the First Lady, Michelle Obama, and she's a friend, and I remember sharing and talking with her, and I was really heartbroken, and she looks at me and she says, "Congratulations." That same look that you just had, I had on my face. She was like, "Congratulations. That space you've been waiting for him to fill, you can now fill for yourself."
Amen and hallelujah. I totally understand. I understand what she means.
Right?
Yeah.
And so at first I was like, "What?" Through the tears, like, "What? What do you mean?" And I'm so thankful for that. I wake up and tell God, "Thank you every day. Thank you so much. Like, God, you love me like that." God had to take me a long way. That was over 30 years in that relationship. So God had to, it had to be, I had to go the hard way. But I'm so grateful because, with the work that I do with girls and kids, I would tell them, go where you're celebrated and not tolerated. Shoulders back, part to God, count on your head. And I was doing that in yourself. And God had to lay me flat, literally on the ground. And I remember reaching up, like, "God, take this pain away." And I clearly heard God say, "Stop reaching for people in things outside of me. Reach for ye." And so God would not let me stand before his people, before my girls, and tell them to live this way and me not apply it.
It's just so much easier to care for others and not care for yourself.
Yeah.
It's so much easier, but then that magnifying glass, you got to hold it up to yourself and analyze, like, eventually that duality will start to, you'll start to feel fragmented.
Yeah. And then be okay with it. Yeah, because I know for me, I would have stayed another 30 years playing small.
Do you feel like the league protects players more than it protects families?
Absolutely.
In what way?
Absolutely. Like the whole mindset, there are different organizations that talk about family. We are a family first.
That's what the NBA really tells
Family
itself to
first,
be
yeah.
over the NFL. The NBA is family. It's like Disney World.
It's family. And, there are a lot of beautiful relationships that come out of that whole family. From through the different teams, there are people that you're still friends and family with. But as it pertains to family, I think it's more about protecting the image of it and not holding accountable the individuals.
I mean, well, there's so much financial investment in the players themselves, so optics would probably outweigh reality 100% of the time. That must have been really frustrating to deal with.
Yeah.
There must be times where you felt like you were just kind of like screaming into the ether, and there's just people just kind of looked at you like, with blank eyes.
But too, you buy into it yourself, because okay, it's family. We are family, but they can cut you in a minute, and trade you in a minute and not care about what happens with your kids in school, because at the end of the day, it is a business and everyone has to learn that. So it's better that you learn that ahead of time and know that it can be about family, and you may have great relationships that you meet along the way. But bottom line, it's a business.
Mhm. You mentioned that you it was 30 years you had to learn a lot of the things the hard way and on your own. So you had no mentorship. You when you came into the you both came
did.
into the league.
I did. I had some great girlfriends, and I still have great girlfriends. Kim Bogues, Muggsy's wife. I loved her. Her and Sonia Curry, were the uh, wives that I met when I first got to Charlotte. So there are some great women that support you and that you build relationships with, but everyone's going through the same.
Mm.
Everybody's going through the same.
And try to make it look like everything is just fine.
Like it's good, but, easy. It's like, oh, wow. And then, yeah, I know. Everyone's going through the same for a lot of the same thing. And not all guys are alike by any means, thank God. But a lot of individuals are going through the same thing, living up to that image. And we didn't have social media. There wasn't
Are you happy about that?
so happy about that. That's probably why my marriage lasted long, you know,
Right.
for so long, because that really wasn't a thing. Yeah, thank God. Thank God we didn't have it in high school or college, or because I don't know that
Y'all
we'd be
don't
sitting
know.
here.
There's young people behind these cameras right now, okay? Y'all don't know. Y'all are Gen Z, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know how good we had it. We're Gen X, okay? We're the best generation. There's that. But like, oh boy, it was a time to just like go to clubs, sweat your dew out, wearing business casual and whatnot, and just be present.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about like optics and image and let me get this and let me make sure that my page is up there. God, it's
I don't know if I
exhausting.
could have. Yeah,
I couldn't have.
succeeded at that.
I wouldn't have wanted to. I wouldn't trade it in for anything in the world. Like my youth and when that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's so you did have mentorship. You did have people kind of like
Yeah.
guiding you and helping you.
I did. And I still have great friends. There are some really great individuals that are part of the NBA, that are part of the league. Women from front office people to, other spouses, other wives, that I really had some great interactions with, but they can't save you, right? They can give you guidance or information, and it depends on where you are in your journey, what you receive, what you accept.
I just interviewed Brandy Reeves. She's a divorce attorney. Sorry, she's a family law attorney. And we were talking about, the reasons in which, people get divorced and irreconcilable differences. And a lot of times it's, it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's when it comes to marriage, you have to choose that person every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Again and again.
Again.
Like start again every day.
Yes. Even in the most banal, unattractive moments, like I was having a conversation with Charlemagne the God, and we were talking about intimacy. And I personally don't think that men really understand what intimacy actually means.
Intimacy.
Intimacy is not taking off your clothes and having sex.
No.
Intimacy is the first time y'all go on vacation and it is one room and one bathroom and you hear each other for the first time. That's intimacy. Okay? It's not cute. Intimacy is not cute.
No.
It is at your most vulnerable moments. And hoping that person doesn't get the icks.
Right.
And still continues to choose you. So, again, I wanted to pose the question, like the cracks in the foundation, what were the first signs?
Like you said, a death by 1,000 cuts. So I don't know that there was a first sign. Maybe there was a last sign, but a first sign, having grown up with someone literally from high school, and growing together throughout that time. If you don't deal with your traumas and your wounds from childhood, they go with you the entire way. And so I think that was a lot of it, that the trauma of not growing up with my father, so I want someone to choose me, pick me, and longing for that. And then finally feel like I have someone that chooses me, and then having to work what felt like work constantly, like, hey, pick me. Um, that was a childhood wound, that I had never dealt with until my divorce, because I had to get to that point. Like, Tracey, why are you playing small? Why do you want someone to choose you when you have to choose yourself? And so I don't know that there was like the first breaking, and that could be our childhood situation, why that is. But, it was I have no regrets about it. I have no regrets about that whole experience, because I had gotten to this place where I choose me, and it doesn't matter if someone else chooses me or not.
In a lengthy marriage that eventually ends up in divorce, usually the initiation is not the first time. Usually it's
Well, that was the first time, it was, without giving too much detail, because, for me, going through my divorce, I decided early on that I wanted to protect my children.
yeah, because honestly, it was quiet.
Yeah.
You succeeded in divorcing a high profile, even though he was retired at the time. He's a Hall of Famer. He's Alonzo Mourning. Everybody knows it. But I didn't even know that you guys had gotten divorced. How did you manage to not have to suffer the dual heartbreak of ending a long-term marriage, the father of your children, but also um the heartbreak of it playing out in front of the entire world and the world judging the both of you. Like, how did you navigate that?
Well, I think it was out there a little bit, but again, I had to choose to protect my family, because the anger and the pain that I felt, I could have gone real left with it. I could have really been, uh, I could have really cut deep with it. But again, God had me. I heard God clear when I couldn't hear anything else. I heard God clearly. I had to choose when I was on the ground reaching up, and the pain that I felt, like, God, please don't let my children feel this. So I had to figure out, like, how is it that they're not going to feel it? They felt it. They were hurt. Everyone was devastated and hurt. And then I didn't only just think about my children. I thought about the work that we've done. We have a whole high school that's Alonzo and Tracey Mourning Senior High School. Those are my kids. We have a youth center, the Overtown Youth Center. Those are my kids. My honeybugs are my kids. So I had to think, once again, putting everyone else ahead of what I was feeling, and the anger and the pain that I was feeling, because there was I see how people snap. I like, I get it. But for God, that I was able to redirect that energy into loving my children more. I had to choose to love more than I did.
Are those the specific words that God told you?
I had choose to love. No, God told me to reach for him. But I knew clearly that I had to choose to love someone, my children, myself, more than I disliked this other person. And that was not easy. And it's taken time to get to a place where I completely feel so good about that, because my children are, I would have broken them to try to heal myself. And then I'd still be putting them half together now, or asking God to do that. So yeah, I had to choose to love more than I hate.
If you're honest, would you say that you had emotionally departed the marriage before physically?
Not, I think I'm such an emotional person that I think my emotions were a big part of staying, so I never checked out in that way. I just accepted less than I should have. So if that's checking out emotionally, yeah, for sure. I accepted not being treated the way I deserved to be treated. And not in a, it wasn't like in a, there was not a physical thing or anything like that. He didn't fight. We didn't fight. That was really not a thing for us. But I read something in going through my healing, like those relationships where there are no fights, there are a lot of secrets. Yeah.
I have this one question here that it's a little messy. I'm sorry, but it's just how real is the every city has someone waiting stereotype? And did that give you anxiety?
No. Like it did
Really?
It did not give me anxiety because I lived in a bubble of thinking like, I know how hard we've worked. I know what we've gone through. I swear.
Okay, so let me tell you what people actually think, which is wild to me, but I can understand why people who are just, average people who don't really know what the life is like, why they would think like this. A lot of people believe that when you marry a man of high net worth and fame, that there's an unwritten rule that you guys adhere to, which is where the wives look the other way because you have this glamorous, beautiful, wealthy lifestyle, and it's enough. And I'm like, no. I've always believed that in most cases, no. Of course, there might be exceptions to the rule, but in general,
no. Like I'm sure I know there was stops in every city, right? There was something, right? But during the time, no. My mind, babe, have a great trip. Like really. I got this. I'm holding it down. And, especially after, he had a kidney transplant or things like that. I'm like,
you thought he was too tired and too disabled to be stepping out.
Like what? Like, we've gone through the hardest stuff together. So we're good.
Yeah.
We put in all this time. We've built all of this. So we're good. But yeah, no, that was the case.
Men have this, this nagging ability to, destroy their own empires because of pussy.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And so you just never.
Those are individuals that I never, there were all those years, there were moments, right? Of like, what is this? What's that? And we talk about it, but I'm not like going to fight or just pop up or show up. I'm not going to Faith Evans, like she did with Biggie, I got too much to do.
Yeah.
I got kids, I got foundations, I have careers, I have tons of stuff that I have to focus on. And I got your back here, so I know you got my back out there.
Oh, well, let me ask you this little messy question. It's not really messy. Since I just interviewed a divorce attorney, I'm curious that when you guys got married, I don't know what you had or what he had in terms of money and assets prior to getting married, but did you guys sign a prenup?
We did.
What was that? What did that look like? And was the league circling, or had he gotten drafted? What's the circumstance in which you got married? Him going into the league and
so
the whole scenario.
Yeah, so he got drafted. We were in Charlotte, and then when he came to Miami, so we were dating still then, and then our son Trey, I got pregnant with my son Trey, and then shortly after that we got engaged and got married. So it wasn't like it was this big. I'm not one for the big pomp and circumstance. It was a small, intimate ceremony. Beautiful island. Maybe 30 people total. That's with kids, that's with family, moms, things like that. So very intimate. We had an agreement, but after all that time, that agreement was out the window. And so, we had to make some other agreements.
Okay.
Host up,
yeah. Okay. And you guys, it sounds like you guys were very sensible about it the entire way. Yeah? No?
I feel like I have been very sensible.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been. I'm very sensible.
Okay, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. When something dies, like a marriage or even like a person, and we'll talk about moms because both you and I lost our moms, I believe, in the same year, 2020.
Twin Brady.
I'm so sorry. It's woo.
Yeah.
But something weird happens. It's like a phenomenon of people choosing sides, loyalty, betrayal. Can you share what was one of the biggest surprises in both areas, a loyalty and betrayal that you just didn't see coming?
For sure, there are people that I thought were friends that really aren't, but there were also individuals that are really good friends of his that are still reach out to me, still call me, have apologized like they were, the partner, my partner. And there are individuals where you get to a point where you see who people truly are and you're thankful for that. Like, I'm not angry at anyone. I'm not angry because you chose this side. Sometimes I feel like it's unfortunate because my nature was, can't we be friends? Like, even with him, can't we be friends? Like, let's find a way to move forward as friends. Some people are open to that. And you have to be okay with that. And my mom would say, leave him when we were going through our situation, my mom said, leave him where he lays, and that's the same thing with individuals who feel like they have to choose a side. If you have to choose ever in life, when it comes to me, choose the other person.
Facts.
Come on, choose them.
I
Like,
agree with that.
whether it's a relationship, a friendship, if you have to sit down and think, who should I choose? Please choose.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. What did healing look like after the dissolution of the marriage, after it was all said and done?
It's still happening. Yeah, the healing, I feel like it'll be a lifelong thing.
It is, but I mean, there's layers.
Yeah, definite layers.
Yeah.
There was a point where
What was the first emotional wound that you felt like you needed to tackle in the healing journey?
to get up off the floor.
That's a big one.
To first get up off the floor, because certain things happened at the end of our marriage that really took the wind out. And to breathe again, to get up off the floor and hold my head up and, be okay for my children. For a long time, my children knew nothing, so I had to be like, okay. And my youngest son, who's 16 now, this was a little bit after we were going through it, and he was like, Mom, I see that you're here, but you're not here. That was a moment for me. That was a wake-up call. Like, I know you're here, but you seem different. And so I really became very intentional. Like, God, help me feel this. Father, I need you. And I'm telling you, it is God, my relationship and having Jesus as my Lord and Savior saved my life. I get emotional thinking because, I thought that going through my divorce and that whole process was the hardest day in the world. But then I realized how my mom transitioned.
There is nothing
That was
like
just
it.
simply preparation to be prepared. So the healing part, I feel like it continues. These aren't tears of sadness. It's tears of love and who's brought me through again and again.
So you say that the pain from the divorce was preparation for your mom passing away. We're part of the same club. It's so horrible. I mean, if I may ask, how did your mom pass away?
Colon cancer.
Mine too.
Mm.
Yeah. My mom had, it started in her appendix, which I feel like is so insidious because what the we use our appendix for? It is the most useless thing. The only thing it does is, threaten to kill us when it erupts or, yeah, exactly. So my mom didn't know that she had cancer and no doctor's looking for it because there's no screening for it. It just hides and waits and metastasizes until it becomes something larger. And for my mom, that became colon cancer. And it sucked. It sucked. How long from diagnosis to
Ah,
her passing?
So in 2020, March 2020, my youngest son woke up and he was like, Mom, I'm not eating well. I'm not sleeping well. I want Nana's food. So my mom lived in Kentucky on a farm, 13 acres, 87 years old.
Oh, that's
Animals, cut her own grass, cleaned her own gutters. Like, it's like, Mom, like she was a tough woman. And so she got on a plane beginning of March, flew down, cooked all his favorite things. And that was the month that we were packing up. I was packing up to move us out, move the kids and I out of our home. And so my mom came down to help me. And like I said, she was very tough. So she never laid down. She was laying down and complaining of pain in her back, but still pushing through, helping pack, move stuff at 87. And so the beginning of April, we moved into a temporary home. April 4th, my birthday was April 5th. On April 4th, I took her to the doctor because, COVID had hit. No one really wanted to go to the doctor, but I saw how uncomfortable she was. And so when I took her, the doctor said how long she had that mass in her colon. She has colon cancer. That was April 4th.
Did she know?
She transitioned on April 20th. Yeah. From April 4th to April 20th. That's when we knew. And I can tell you that for us, it didn't seem like a long time, but I know for her, those couple of weeks were torture. Yeah. Yeah. And every day I miss her. We all do. We all do. And she was I have to show you some of the videos of her. She would always say, I'm going to live forever. I'm going to drive you crazy forever. And for some crazy reason, I believed her. I really did. I believed her. I don't know why. She was really like a superhero. I mean, all the things she's experienced in her life and the sacrifices she made for her children. I just pray that I'm half a mom than she is.
She sounds like she's a story waiting to be told.
Oh, yeah.
Just in the description of everything that she went through for, her children and legally, I mean, she sounds like a movie.
Yeah, I've started writing, and I've been writing her story for a while, even so much so that, the way you would have loved her. Bill Cosby, even when he met her, he was just so taken by her and her story that he had this woman write a play loosely based on her life, and it appeared in New York at Crossroads Theater. So she was that dynamic, in so many different ways.
Part of my personal struggle with losing my mom was the overwhelming sense of guilt that I felt because our relationship was complicated, versus my best friend who lost her mom 2 years later after my mom had passed away, and they were so close. They were Buddhist, and they had that shared sense of faith. And I felt like it was easier for her to process than it was for me to process because of the complications of all these ambivalent feelings, these competing emotions. Would you say that what were the last days like with your mom? Did you get a chance to say things that you had never said before? Because it sounds like you guys were so close that nothing was left off the table.
Nothing was left off. I'd sit and interview her. I'd ask questions. I had tons of video of her. We would talk every day, everything from politics to children to life stuff. So we were very close. And in her last days, this is how God is so good. We're in a temporary home. All of her grandkids are there because of COVID. My sister, Lisa, and I are there. So we were all together. We couldn't have written that any better, in her last days. So it was beautiful. It was, weighing. It was a lot. I felt, like, God, what is happening? All of this transition, and it's just me. My mom said she'd always be here, so it wasn't easy by any means, but I'm so grateful for that time. It was very special.
I'm very happy for you that you were surrounded by so much family, and that nothing was left off the table and that you guys had the relationship that you had, because trust me when I say the opposite is really hard to navigate. I'm my mother's only child.
Mm.
I had to navigate all of it by myself during the pandemic. It was sometimes I literally just say I don't know how I'm still
Right.
here.
Right.
Yeah. And it's do you feel I've expressed it, but I've expressed the feeling of losing my mom as feeling like my tether to the earth is gone. Like what's holding me, connecting me to the earth anymore. If she's gone,
Yeah.
what's I could just like blow away.
Yeah.
Did you feel something like that?
I didn't feel that because, just like how my mom had to be strong
Mm-hmm.
for her kids, it's my children that have kept me tied, and I know not every woman has that experience of having children uh to do that, but that was my saving grace, like, and my mom would say, I remember there a couple of times she said this when Alonzo was diagnosed with his kidney disorder and our daughter was born 2 weeks earlier to the day. I remember thinking like, Mommy, what am I going to do? Like, what's going to happen? We have no idea what's going to happen to my husband. And she looked at me and said, Tracy, what would have happened to you and your sister had I given up when her kids were taken away from her? So I still say that to myself when she transitioned, like, what's going to happen to your kids if you fall apart
Yeah.
and stay apart? Because I fell apart. It probably won't be the last time that I fall apart. But it's that the grace of God that I see God in everything. I see God in the divorce. I see God in my mommy transitioning. I see God in this moment. And I'm so grateful. Like, that's how good our God is. I'm so thankful. And I just pray that any person, man or woman, that's going through something hard, that please just find that relationship and focus on that. Reach for him because I mean he brings it all together. And that I say that to you too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Stay reaching for him because that's your mommy.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your mom is.
Yeah.
And I think about with my mom, as much as we love her, her grandkids love her, and we still talk about her like crazy. My son was emotional about it the other day. But as much as we love her, the thought of her in the moment of transition being greeted by Jesus, like the love she must have felt in that moment, nothing worried.
Oh my God, Tracy, you're gonna make me cry. Christ on a cracker. I was like, good God. Okay. Let's switch gears and talk about, God-given purpose.
Yes.
So you are the co-founder of the Overtown Youth Center. You've got Living on Vacation Every Day, love your clothing line, and you're also the founder of Honey Shine. And I think that this is what we were talking about 20 years ago when I interviewed you. It's had such an enormous impact on so many women and girls' lives. But before it could have began, it was a spark, So where did the spark come from? How did you know what your purpose truly was?
Again, God.
What did God say to you?
So I used to live in South Florida when I was a little girl. My mom cleaned houses there too and worked at the jail. And people there, she would lose jobs when they found out she had Black children. And so even in Vegas, she lost jobs because she had, and we would go with her to some of the jobs and clean. She was like, don't call me mom. And I'd be like, Mom, I want to start some stuff as a little girl because she would lose jobs. And she was like, Tracy, I need the bread. That's how she would describe it. But when we went back to South Florida, when my former husband's job took us back there, I would go visit Miss Annie Wu Johnson, the lady who used to take care of me down in this area called Ghouls while my mom worked. And so I would go visit Miss Annie Lou, and I'd see groups of girls walking around the neighborhood, babies on the hip, house shoes on, in the street, and they just kept circling the block. And I would ask Miss Annie Lou, where are they going? Like they just kept walking. And I wanted to know, like, which one am I out of that group? I would look at that and like, who am I out of that group? Had it not been to the mommy that I had it not been to the women in my life. And again, God placed it on my heart and said, Tracy, you need to do what was done for you. Someone took me outside of my neighborhood and it changed my life. I was like, what? This is how they live? So we started, I gathered a group of girlfriends around the dining room table and I said, look, we're going to start a mentoring program. It's called Honey Shine. This is God telling me all this because we used to say, honey child, please, when I was little. And so I said, it's called Honey Shine, and we're going to take these girls to the beach, to Miami Beach. So our first workshop was at a Black-owned hotel, Don Peoples, his hotel. And he allowed us to do it there, and that's where we started, once a month workshops. And then I realized that wasn't enough because it was like starting over each month with the girls. So let's do it twice a month. And then that wasn't enough. So let's do a summer camp. We did a week-long summer camp. And that wasn't enough. Now the summer camp's 6 weeks long. Now we're in after-school programs in Miami-Dade and in Broward several days a week. And it's year-round programming. So again, it was God. God all day.
Yeah.
That placed it on my heart. And had God said, Tracy, you're going to impact thousands of young ladies and they come back and serve, and I would have been too afraid. I would have, God, no, I can't do that. So I'm so thankful that God didn't tell us everything. But yeah, it was God again.
Purpose grows with us, and it changes as we change. So how has your understanding of your calling changed as you've moved through the different chapters in your life?
So it's changed in the sense, for instance, with Honey Shine, that it's not just about taking young girls outside of their neighborhood. It's about providing opportunities for them to grow into the young women they're supposed to be. So if that means a college experience, if that means having individuals come in to speak with them, if that means exposure to AI, to STEM, to dance, to music, whatever it is, it's grown in that sense where the vision is definitely much bigger than let's take them to a hotel on the beach and do a workshop on self-esteem.
Being of service to people is extraordinarily rewarding. It's so rewarding. I'm just wondering that, in the whole experience, it's been over 2 decades. What have the girls taught you?
Oh, they teach me every day. They teach me resilience. They teach me to what I share with them, shoulders back, heart to God, crown on your head. They teach me that I am enough. The same thing. It's like a reflection. It's like a mirror. They teach me that, we are all here to make a difference in someone else's life. That's what it's all about. I know going to college, I thought it was about what I wanted to study, what I wanted to be. But I am so clear in our kids, and it's not just the girls, it's the boys and girls, because the youth center, it's boys and girls and families. We service over 5,000 children and families there. It's about service. Because someone poured into me, we have to keep doing that. And we have to teach our young people to do that as well, because we're in such a society, takers, me, where my whole mantra is give, receive, give again. You give, it just naturally comes back to you. And you give again. You give, receive, and give again. And that's what, all of our kids do for me. We have this youth center, we have this program. It's like Tracy and Alonzo, you've done this great work. We receive a lot of accolades, but I'm telling you, it is the people that are hands-on with our kids every day in our programs. We have amazing team members and staff there that pour in, and they get it too, that we're here to serve because this is a tough world out there. And, you can't do it by yourself.
Is there a Honey Shine moment, of late or maybe in the past that just kind of like it was just a reflection of this is why I do the work that I do?
Oh, for sure. I feel like there are tons of those,
For there.
but the first one that I recall was our first week of summer camp. And it was when we had summer camp a week long. And I went home the first day. I was like, I'm not going back. Like, you can't make me go back. Like, God, like those were teenage girls and they're moody and they're emotional. And it's a lot of them. Like, God, I know you want me on a beach somewhere with an umbrella. This isn't how you want me to spend my summer. And so the next day I got up and I went back to camp. And as soon as I walked in, a honey bug runs up to me and said, Miss Tracey. And she hugs me and she was like, Miss Tracey, I told God, thank you for honey shine. Thank you for that. But God, really, that's your answer. You answer. So for sure that. But I love seeing. I received a note the other day from a young woman who's going on to law school, and she was just talking about thank you for honey shine. Because it's really helped with her self-esteem and the exposure that she received through that. So it's all the time. And of course you don't do it for that, but it's such a blessing to see. Those are like all my babies. I gave birth to 3 amazing human beings. And God has blessed me with lots more.
That's an incredible story. Just all of the work that you've done. Do you look back and just, think about, like time is just so fleeting, you know what I mean? So when you think about how many decades you've been doing this, does it feel like that amount of time has
No,
gone by?
it doesn't feel like that amount of time. It seems like it was just yesterday. But what makes it feel like that is when you see these young adults and it's like, hi, Miss Tracey, with their own kids that are now in the program as well. That's weird. That's like, what? I feel like I haven't changed. But yeah, it's so rewarding. It's so special. And when you talk about looking back, I always say this. I put a plaque up at the youth center that my mom would always say, and it just happened when we got emotional just now. She would always say, don't look back, you only get destiny. Sing, keep going forward. And whenever I look back, just like now when we were talking about that, that's the dust that gets in my eyes.
Your kids, I'm assuming that they're young adults now.
Young adults. Well, I do have a 16-year-old.
Okay. Yeah, how's that?
Yeah, it's great. He's amazing. So my oldest is 29. He's an amazing human being. He's on fire for God, called to teach the word of God to young people. Through his program, his athletics. He played at Georgetown, finished with his master's. Several languages he speaks, like gorgeous. Like he's really an incredible human being. So he's out on his own. He's back in Miami. He played in New Zealand, a few other places, but he's back in Miami and he's happy and he's following his path that God has placed him on. My boss, I have one daughter. She's the boss. Micah is her name, and she's 25, and she is on the spectrum. So God willing, we'll be together for a long time. Her living independently from me or on her own is a little ways off for her. But she's my test and my testimony. Like I always say, she makes me great. She just won't let me be great. Because she wants to be everywhere with me. And she's, my greatest teacher. And then Elijah, 16-year-old, navigating the high school years for him and, keeping him encouraged and motivated. That's my work. So it's Trey, Micah, and Elijah.
How has, watching your children step into adulthood shaped you as a mom?
Well, I think it's still shaping me too, because like my oldest, like we have our challenges sometimes, because he really is an independent thinker and I respect that about him. But it's kind of moving to the space of I will always be your mother, but it's nice to be your friend. And that's where it is with him. With Micah, same thing. That's my girl. That's my best friend. And she makes me work. Like I work for her. So when I say boss, I literally mean that. So yeah, they make you better in so many different ways. And I'm looking forward to, the next step. My mom would always say, because I would ask my mom, would you change anything of your life from the past with everything you went through? And she says no, she wouldn't, because she wouldn't have her grandkids. And she always says if she could skip the kids and gone straight to the grandkids, she would have. So I'm excited about that part of the journey as well.
How do you the self-care is a conversation that comes up a lot. And you know, a lot of people seem to think that, you know, self-care is a weighted blanket from IKEA and like a glass of wine and a bubble bath, and it's so not. It's like it's so much more. How do you personally reset when you feel like life is just kind of getting loud?
I go back to the why. I stay in the word. You know, I'm a part of this Bible study group that's on Wednesdays. I guess everyone's is on Wednesdays. You know, so doing that helps me. I have amazing friends. You know, there are a lot of women that I've come across that don't have girlfriends. That's strange for me because I'm still homie, don't you know me, with my girls from high school and college. And we have a great support group there. So that's how I reset. And then I take time to be quiet, you know, to be still, like to just sit for a moment, because I feel like everything's going so fast and it's so loud out there. So I like being quiet. I'm a homebody. I love my space. I created a great home, and I like being there. I'm the type of person where I think, especially in Miami, like they're not outside. Like I don't think people are outside until I go. I'm like, but you all are outside at restaurants and things like that. I'm thinking everyone's home like me. But time with myself is important, and loved ones.
Same. I'm very much a homebody. At least 4 days out of the week, I look like a janitor. Shout out to the janitors out there. But yeah, or Adam Sandler, one or the other. But you know, I just hair up in a ponytail, in like a pineapple, no makeup. Don't want to go too far outside my door. I might drop my dog outside, but I love being home, and I do love, honestly, the moments that I'm allowed to have to just contemplate and think. You know, the world does go so fast that we're chained to these phones and we're constantly doom scrolling. And I'm like, I just need to just stare at something and then just think.
And be still.
Because everything is just moving so fast around us. I know that you're very you know, private and protective, but you found love after marriage. It's not that easy for us to be finding love out here. It is hard. They got this whole male loneliness epidemic and stuff like that. Girl, don't even, you haven't heard about it?
No. What's male loneliness?
I don't know, but apparently it's a massive cause for concern. But nobody gave a about women being alone, you know.
All the guys are alone.
Yeah, it's like it's such a catastrophe now that, you know, nobody cared about, you know, LGBTQIA plus people being alone, but let heterosexual men feel alone. It's, I don't know, it's a national disaster. It's an epidemic. So you've discovered love. What's that like? Right now.
You know what? I can tell you that it started with loving myself first. You know, and the special gentleman that I get to share time and space with now, we met on the continent of Africa, just walking by each other.
Really?
100,000 people. Burner Boy is about to perform, and
was it the year of the return?
No, I was there for that too, but every year I go to Ghana. So it was a couple of years ago now, and we walked past each other. He stopped me and we started talking. He was like, hey, what do you know, where are you from? What do you do? And I shared a few things, and I work with kids. And he was like, oh, great. I have this thing called Year of the Youth. And I was like, oh, cool. And so Burner Boy's about to come on. So he's like, I'm about to lose her attention. So we exchange information, and then the concert goes on. Then I start receiving pictures of myself at the concert because he happens to be right behind me.
Oh, wow.
And
that was brave. That's so brave.
Stalkerish.
I was about to say stalkerish.
We joke about that. So yeah, and then when we got back to the States, we were not in touch for a long time, and then I happened to come to his city, and we were going to get together. It didn't work out that time. And then we eventually got together. He came to see the work that I did. And, we just connected from the very beginning. Very human.
Yeah. How did and you felt open to dating?
I'm open to, I would never shut myself off from love. And so there are times where I felt like, I can't do this again. I can't survive this thing again.
It's a risk.
It's a risk.
It's throwing your heart on the crap table.
It's a risk, but the reward has been wonderful, and again, I say it starts from loving yourself. I will never love another person more than I love myself, and more than I love God or my children. But I think that's what makes the difference, because they pay attention to how you love yourself. And, I always say, we're the neck, they're the head. And so when, we are loving on ourselves and taking care of ourselves and making sure we are a priority, I find that they tend to do the same.
I can't think of anywhere else to go in this interview because you just tied that up at a pretty pink bow. You are amazing, Tracey. I'm so glad that we can reconnect. Your story, your testimony is really, I think it's going to be profoundly impactful to a lot of people watching. So thank you so much for sharing with me today. I have a little game that I like to play just to lighten things up. It's called Rapid Fire. Cue the graphic. It's just a fun, silly little game that we like to play. So just answer immediately as soon as you hear the question.
Okay.
A book that changed you.
Way of the Superior Man. Great book. It's written for men, and it's about men, with the workplace and women. So it's a really great book. It's written for men. So that was the first one that came to mind.
So I'm assuming that there's a major theme about consent in there?
There's
and workplace dynamics?
Yeah. So no, I guess it's about them, how they manage themselves in those environments.
Okay.
And how they deal with this coming at you. It's how to be that superior man where you're leading and not being led, maybe. That's what it is.
Okay,
So
well then
that's interesting that was the first book that popped in my head.
I was about to say I'm breaking my own rule right now because now I want to know what made you pick up that book. You're not a dude.
I'm not a dude, but it's great for women to read as well.
I will read it.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Something that you cannot live without right now. Your new boo?
Well, I don't want to live without him, but I'm not going to put that pressure on him or any other human being. But the word, the Bible, like that's everything. Every answer, every question I've ever had, all the answers are there. So that book, and that could have been the first answer as well.
I thought it was going to be your first answer. So I was very surprised by your answer. A mantra that you say to yourself often.
Don't look back. You only get dust in the ass.
Marriage or partnership?
Partnership.
Do you hear that, guys?
Yeah.
That's what women are looking for these days. Partnership.
Yeah. And it's, because you can be married all day long and not be a partner.
You can be a single mother in a marriage. There's that.
Next question.
Right? Okay. Your superpower.
Forgiveness. Like I don't know if that's a weakness or
No,
a strength.
It is an incredible strength.
Yeah.
Forgiveness. Yeah. No, that is one of the hardest things for human beings to authentically give and receive.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I love this. All right.
Too.
Thank you, Tracey, so much for joining me. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Purpose can be the anchor through every single season. Love, loss, reinvention, and everything in between. For Journey proves that when you return to yourself, you return to your power. That's it for today's episode of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Remember that life is lived in the in-between, and that's usually where it gets the hottest. Until next time. Thank you for tuning into Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Please rate, subscribe, and comment, and share wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
This season of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford is hosted, written, and executive produced by me for Forged Path Productions. This season was written and produced by Sebastian Godin, filming and editing done by Freddie Chica, Nicole Benante, the Bassi Group, and Emmanuel Martinez, and executive produced by Rachel DeSalvo.